Hey, good morning. Maybe it's afternoon. I don't even know what time it is. And I don't know if anybody's going to log on here. This is actually an experiment because for the last 2 weeks, I've had trouble posting anything into the group guide under Guide 32. I can post to every other guide, but for some reason, nothing will post in Guide 32, which is the challenge group. So I don't know if we need to take it down and republish the whole guide or what's going on, but we had some problems with it and it locked us out of it, and we thought we fixed it and I can't post anything. So I've tried to post the video that I recorded this morning 3 times and it's not going up. So I decided to go ahead and go live and talk about what I was going to talk about in that video, but the video that I recorded is in the YouTube playlist. So for those of you who don't know, there is a YouTube playlist with everything that I'm posting here on the 90-day challenge as well, so that we can send that playlist out to people who aren't even on Facebook. Anyway, long story short, Facebook's being a dick. I don't know why, so we're going to try something new. The question that I got this week that I wanted to talk about in our Friday Q&A is, why do I feel worse before I feel better? And I've had several people email me this week asking why they felt sick, how come this time they did the detox box, they felt like they got a little cold and they didn't get that last time, and different variations of that question. So I want to unpack just briefly why the immune system works the way that it does. So anytime we change our diet, we change our vitamins, we change our routine, we change our sleep pattern, we change pretty much anything. It impacts the immune system. And your immune system has a set of resources. So if it's allocating those resources towards the most pressing issue, which is what the body is going to do, the body is going to protect the part of you that it doesn't want to die. So, for example, if there's multiple issues, I get this all the time with people who want to lose weight, right? Why am I not losing weight? Well, if there's multiple issues and you have hormone dysfunction and you want to lose weight, and you have cardiovascular issues, or there's circulatory problems, or there's something else going on, there's GI distress, the body's going to decide what's most important. I say this a lot because we talk about the skin being the last thing that gets healed and the first thing that goes, because of the resources that it requires. So in terms of detoxing or changing your diet, or those of you who are jumping into the challenge and you're changing a lot of things, you're doing a detox, you're changing your diet, you're taking your vitamins for the first time, and you catch a cold, or you have carb flu, or you feel like you're under the weather and your body's fighting something off. All of that is normal because you're reallocating resources. So when you change your diet, especially when you go from a standard American diet to an ancestral diet, whether it's paleo, keto, carnivore, doesn't matter. When you start eating more nutrient dense, you are eliminating excess sugar, excess carbohydrates from your diet. The body does something we call carb flu, which is basically it throwing a temper tantrum. You have taught your body not to do what it was supposed to do. God designed the body to work properly, and our diet and our lifestyle teach the body not to do what it was supposed to do all along. Biology is smart. I say this all the time. Your biology is way smarter than you are. And so when you teach it not to do its job, it's going to find the fastest, most efficient, laziest way to get the job done. So if you continue to feed it high carbs, high processed food, high sugar diet, it's going to get used to that, and it's going to stop doing what it was supposed to be doing, which is why our immune system fails, our metabolism fails, all of those things that we've talked about so many times, right? So when you switch that, and now you're expecting your body to start doing what it's supposed to do again, right? It's supposed to turn stored fat into glucose. It's supposed to digest amino acids properly, create new cells, but it hasn't been doing that for a while. It has to relearn how to do that. And think of your body like a child. You know, if you tell your kid you don't need to have any responsibilities, and then suddenly one day you tell your kid, you need to become responsible, your kid's going to throw a fit. That's what happens. It's where the term spoiled brat comes from, and temper tantrum, right? Your body's throwing a temper tantrum. It wants what's easy. It wants to be lazy. It doesn't want to work. So it's telling you that. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. That's not an excuse to stop. It's exactly why you need to push through. So that's one reason you might feel sick. The second reason is the process of detoxing. Whether you're doing a detox box or not, whether you've changed your diet or not, whether you're taking the vitamins or not, if you've changed one or more of those things, your body is naturally detoxing. And therefore, all the crap that you inundate your body with every single day, whether that's diet, whether it's just your environment, whether it's breathing things in, it's the products that you use, it's trying desperately to get rid of those. And it's going to do that in different ways. So you might have a headache. You might feel lethargic. You might feel like you're getting sick. You might actually get sick because your immune system, like I said, is trying to reallocate resources to places that need it more. Viruses, parasites, bacteria, those are opportunistic. They're inside of us always. They're supposed to be there. Your goal is not to avoid germs or to avoid being around things that might make you sick, because that's not actually how you get sick. You get sick because the environment inside your body isn't capable of dealing with the shit it's supposed to deal with every single day. So we always have viruses, we always have bacteria, we always have parasites. Those are not the bad guys. The problem is your immune system isn't capable of handling that. So as we're trying to build the immune system to be able to do its job, you have to expect that it's going to suck for a while. It's going to recoil. And those opportunistic bacteria, viruses, and parasites are going to rear their ugly head. The goal is not to never get sick. And I've said this a million times. The goal is to let your body do what it was designed to do and stop getting in its way. So it's okay if you get sick. And because of Bedrock, you have the tools to deal with that. You have the necessary items that in the event that you do get sick, you know how to support your body without doing its job for it, without getting in the way of it getting better. So instead of running for a Tylenol, which is ultimately going to destroy your immune system, even though it's going to temporarily take that headache away or make the fever go away, you have now made the situation much, much worse. Instead, you're going to increase your vitamin C, you're going to increase your lysine, you're going to follow the viral protocol, you're going to rest, you're going to have fluids, you're going to have bone broth, you're going to use essential oils. There's a million other things you're going to do to support the natural process instead of getting in its way. So, 1, don't fear being sick. 2, don't get in the way. 3, support your biology because it knows better than you do what you need all the time. And the body wants to be optimal. It doesn't want to be sick. It will struggle and fight to protect you tooth and nail. That's its job. It stopped doing that because you stopped letting it do its job. So if anyone is to blame for us getting sick, it's us. That's not to say, again, that the goal is to never get sick, right? It's not to avoid people or places or travel or airplanes or any of those things. It's simply to support your body in what it's supposed to do all the time and trust that your biology is better and smarter than you are. So I omitted this from the video that's on YouTube, but I wanted to post it because this happened to me. And so I wanted to relate my own experience. The only times I really get sick are when I'm super exhausted, stressed out, worn down, not sleeping, not taking care of myself, which is another reason why this challenge requires that you do self-care every single day. It's not by accident, because your immune system requires that you actually take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. It isn't just about taking your vitamins and eating right. Everything you do matters. So, back to my story. So we're 3 weeks into this challenge, but I started my detox 2 weeks prior to that. So my detox is done. Excuse me. When I started the detox, I had done a bunch of things. So this story goes back to November. When I was in November, oh Lord, it's been that kind of day. When I was in Mexico in November, I had something happen with my ear, my left ear, and I couldn't hear from the second day I was in Mexico for weeks. A lot of you I've talked to knew that this was going on. This is the second time in my life this has happened. And the first time, it lasted a month. Nobody could find anything wrong with my ear. I couldn't figure anything out. Everything I did, like that I would normally do, didn't work. I went and had acupuncture, and it cleared it up in 3 days. This time I live way farther away from the city, and I really didn't want to go to the old chiropractor that I used to see for acupuncture, so I was hell-bent on figuring out why this was happening. And it doesn't happen every time I fly. It doesn't happen every time I travel. It is most definitely related to the amount of stress that I am under. So, as most things in my immune system are. So anyway, came back from Mexico, didn't get better, tried a bunch of things. Some things would make it a little bit better, some things wouldn't touch it, some things I thought it was almost gone, and it was getting better, and boom, then it would still be there. So I figured out it was related to my lymph nodes, because when we started this challenge and I started doing the gua sha, which I talked about, I noticed that the lymph nodes right below each ear on both sides were extremely tender, and it was excruciatingly painful if I applied pressure down here. I have in the past had chronic sinus issues, and I have in the past had chronic exposure to mold. And so when I do get sick, which is rare, it always attacks the weakest part of my body. And we talked about this during COVID, that if you have a weak spot, that's usually where you're going to consistently have problems. So if you had asthma, like I had asthma as a child, but I reversed my asthma by fixing my immune system. I haven't had asthma in 20 years, but it's my sinuses, my airways, my lungs that are my weakest point. And so if I get sick, it's usually sinus infection, or bronchitis or pneumonia. That's the weakest part of my body. So anyway, fast forward this long story to between the detox, the stress, the lack of sleep, and the fact that I now started this new routine of addressing lymph drainage, I ended up getting sick. And I knew that it was my body releasing what had been stuck in those lymph nodes. So I was doing red light therapy, I was doing yellow light therapy, I was doing purple light therapy, I was doing lymphatic massage, I was taking all my vitamins, I finished up the detox. I kept doing the things I knew were going to make things better. What aggravates me is when you start to feel this way, and then I hear you say, should I stop taking the detox? Should I stop taking my vitamins? What? Why? I don't understand that train of thought. You have to continue to put the things in to help your body get over the hump. You don't quit, change, or turn around. Like, that's insane to me. I just don't get it. So anyway, I kept doing the things that I knew I needed to do, even though they were uncomfortable, to get to the other side. And it did take a while. I had hearing loss for 2 months. It wasn't total, complete hearing loss, but it sounded like I was underwater. And all of last week, now this was exacerbated by the fact that I went on that trip with Gia for her tournament, and the hotel had mold, and I know that that was ultimately the trigger that like flipped the switch. And I just, everything I had been working and fighting and hadn't become full blown. I just knew it was there. It was in the back. It was lingering. I knew it was happening, and I kept working. And then I went and stayed 4 days at a hotel in Ocala that had mold in it. It was obvious. We walked in, the whole place smelled dank and musty. And plus lack of sleep, because when we travel, my sleep habits are not the best, and her schedule just is impossible. We get home late and whatever. Anyway, so when I got back from Ocala, which we played till Monday, so I got back on Tuesday of last week, I could just tell it was brewing. I was gonna get sick. I knew it was coming. I had a little bit of a sore throat on the way back. And sure as shit, it didn't happen until over last weekend. So last weekend, almost a week ago now, Saturday and Sunday of last week, as a matter of fact, I just sat on the couch and did nothing. Like all the things I wanted to do and all the things I'd hoped to get accomplished, nothing. But I gave myself permission, and this is in Julie's video, I gave myself permission to rest, to do what I needed to do. So diet stayed tight, although I didn't have much of an appetite, so I did do some fasting, kept taking my vitamins, kept doing those things, right? Prioritized sleep, gave myself a break, cut myself some slack, used a little grace on myself, but I kept doing all the things I needed to be doing. So you don't just stop, is my point. And you do get to the other side and your body does recover. So finally, I think Monday and Tuesday were my lowest days. Saturday and Sunday was just tired. Monday and Tuesday, I actually had a cough, sinus drainage, massive headache, felt awful. Stayed in bed most of Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday, and then got up yesterday and, cleaned the house like a madwoman because I was so aggravated that things hadn't been done in 5 days. And then today I feel relatively normal. I still have a little tiny bit of a cough, but my point is that when these things happen, they happen less frequently. They happen for shorter periods of time, and your body bounces back faster if you continue to do the things that you're supposed to do. If you continue to live the lifestyle that you're learning, right? And you continue to incorporate the self-care. I got a lot of reading done while I was down, which was also kind of nice to give myself a couple days off. It sucks because this is the stack of files I'm working on. So all you people who are waiting for responses from me, that's why. But it was nice to actually relax for a couple of days, not put the pressure on myself of having to have everything done. And I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of resting. I did a lot of saunaing in my sauna. Took a hot bath and with magnesium and, just let myself get well. So I think we're all under a lot of pressure at times to feel better overnight. And I think that's why we succumb to taking prescription medications, going to see the doctor, taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatories over the counter, because we want that immediate feeling of feeling better. And unfortunately, although you immediately suppress the symptom, you don't immediately fix the problem, and you very often make it much worse. So stop grabbing for those convenience items that give you temporary relief, because just like anything, there is no such thing as instant gratification. Anything worth having is going to require a little bit of work, time, and patience. Anything that comes instantaneously is fleeting. And so often, doctors and pharmacies and drug companies, and I watched so many commercials for drugs while I was on the couch doing nothing this weekend. They use the fact that it's easy, it's simple. Look, you can feel better right away, to entice you to do the very thing that is going to destroy your life from the inside out. So you just have to be smarter than that, but you also have to be patient. And patience is not something any of us are very good at, is it? So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. It's okay to feel worse before you feel better. There's a difference between getting worse and feeling worse. If you feel symptoms. That's your body's way of telling you something's going on. You always want to feel everything. You don't want to ignore it. You don't want to suppress it. You don't want it to go away. You want to understand why it's happening so that you can address it at the root. And this is what medications do wrong. They cover up the symptoms that are telling us exactly what we need to do so that we stop listening to our bodies, because that's how Big Pharma wins and you lose. You stop listening to your body. So listen, if your symptoms continue to worsen, then we have to figure out why. It still is not okay to quit. It still is not okay to go back to the old shit you used to do that you know better than now. It just means you have to dig a little bit deeper. So be patient. Okay. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend this weekend. For those of you who are waiting for things from me, it's going to take me a little while to unbury myself, but I'm okay with that. And I hope that everybody is feeling fantastic now, because now we're 3 weeks in. So usually that day 1 to day 14 is the hardest. Most times, if you feel crappy, it's gone by day 21. So by next week, you all should be on the upswing. Okay. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.